You girls really have it easy. All you need to do is look fabulous and wait for some guy to ask you out. We foot the bill while you reap all the rewards without lifting a finger. Listen here, you big oaf. I work 6 days a week just to scrape together any cash. That means that when I go on a date, it costs me money I need just to have some spending cash. Sure, that might be true for you, but not many girls have to hustle like that. I still maintain that you girls have it made. Irene, my sister Ashley, and Tiffany huddled together for a moment before turning to face me. All right, since you think we have it so good, let's make a wager. We have a game this weekend, right? If we win, we'll hand you $600. But if we lose, you'll take my job as a waitress, dressed in my uniform, for an entire month, and I still get to keep the tips. Nobody ever claimed I was the sharpest tool in the shed, and that day proved it. Our team was the overwhelming favorite, with everyone including the opposing team expecting us to win. They hadn't secured a single victory yet. This was going to be a breeze, and I was confident those girls would be the ones paying up. Just as I was about to respond, my friend Brian strolled over, and I filled him in on the bet. Like me, he was certain we'd come out on top. With him right beside me, I accepted the terms of the wager. Ashley carefully reiterated the conditions and asked for my confirmation, to which I enthusiastically replied yes. There was no way we could lose this match. We were ranked third, while they were sitting at the bottom. Brian was on the same page, and we walked away, convinced the girls had made a foolish bet. Naturally, word of our wager spread throughout the school the next day, likely thanks to the girls, and I took my fair share of ribbing about it. Most people thought I was in no real danger, but the girls were reveling in it. Even my teachers caught wind of it, and one of them proposed that I expand the bet. If our team emerged victorious, I would earn extra credit, which could catapult me into the top 10% of the class. However, if we lost, she wanted me to come to school dressed as a girl for the same month I'd be working as a waitress. I was so confident in our success that I agreed to her wager right there in class, and within moments, it was all over the school. I stand around 5'8", weigh about 147 pounds, and have auburn hair with dark blonde streaks and green eyes. At 18, I was cocky. My buddy Brian was always by my side, a true friend, but he insisted twice that I make a real knockout as a girl. I wanted to give him a smack. When Mom found out about the bet, thanks to my sister, she didn't offer any sympathy. She simply said that if I lost, she'd be the one to help transform me into a girl, and after all, a month wouldn't be so bad. Dad found it hilarious, sharing my confidence that our team wouldn't lose. Then Mom dropped a bombshell she thought I'd make a pretty girl. Face it, honey, you take after me more than Ashley does. We have the same nose, chin, eyes, and coloring. Ashley favors your father a bit more. I think turning you into a girl will be a breeze. We're not going to lose, Mom, so no worries there. We'll see, won't we? And there it was. The wager, the odds, and the potential outcomes. There was no way I was losing this bet, and I was going to relish watching those girls hand over $100 each. I went to bed that night brimming with confidence. The next day at school, I found my locker painted pink, with a brand new bra hanging from the lock. I got some laughs about that, but I tossed it in my locker and headed to class. The guys on the team assured me we had the win in the bag, which was reassuring. With just 2 days until the game, my confidence soaring, and perhaps a touch of cockiness, the cheerleading squad cornered me. They wanted in on the bet. If we won, they'd do my homework for the rest of the year. If we lost, I have to join them as a cheerleader for the remainder of the season. Why was everyone so eager to see me in a dress? I wondered just before I agreed. How could I refuse? The game was a sure thing, right? I was in the stands, watching our team dominate. We were up by 6 points going into the fourth quarter, and I nearly left, convinced we had the win secured. But then, interception, a quick lateral pass, a sprint, and they scored. The game was tied, and a knot formed in my stomach. They had the ball, needing just 1 point to win. Their kicker struck it clean, the ball soaring high and right, then curving back to slip just over the crossbar. We were down by 1 with only 2 minutes left. I perched on the edge of my seat as we took the ball at the 25. Our runner was hit, the ball popped free, and a scramble ensued. They ended up with it, and in 2 plays, they scored again with a field goal. We were down by 4 with less than 2 minutes to go. We pushed the ball to the 40, but only a touchdown would win the game. The snap, a long pass, a rush to catch it, and our man dropped it just as the final whistle blew. We had lost. I looked around, seeing girls pointing at me, laughing. They knew what was coming. So did I. I wished I could sink into the metal benches. By the time I got home, my sister was there, grinning widely. Mom wasn't very sympathetic. She told me that in the morning, she'd help me get ready and transform me into a girl. Dad had been at the game with me and knew what was coming, but there was nothing he could do. A man stands by his word, he always said, and I had made the bet myself. By the terms of the bet, I'd have to work as a waitress for a month while attending school as a girl. But with 6 more months of sports, I had also agreed to be a cheerleader for every game until then. Mom realized the implications immediately and dropped another bombshell. I'd probably have to stay a girl until the end of the year, as switching back and forth would be too difficult, and with some games in the afternoon, there wouldn't be enough time to change. I protested, but the best I got from her was a maybe. We'll see. The next morning, all 3 girls were at our house. Irene had brought one of her uniforms for me to try on, but I was with Mom in her room, with strict orders for everyone to stay away. I had no clue how to go about this, except maybe just putting on the clothes, but Mom asked if I really wanted to look like a clown while waitressing. I could, but I'd be the laughing stock of the town. Mom had me stripped down, then covered me with a cream that removed all my body hair. After washing my hair and shaving closely, I stepped back into her bedroom wearing just a towel. In her hand, she held a pair of pink panties. The thought of wearing them made me feel strange, but she insisted, so I slipped them on. They didn't leave much to the imagination. Then she showed me how to put on pantyhose, which, to my surprise, gave me shivers as the smooth nylon slid over my now hairless skin. Once I had them up to my waist, she gave me a panty brief to wear, then added a folded washcloth on each side to give me hip. My still damp hair hung limp as she had me sit at her vanity. Mom didn't do anything but walk me through the intricacies of makeup. I had to apply it all myself, as she insisted I might as well learn. First came foundation, matched to my skin tone, and a powder to smooth and mattify my face. Then eyeshadow in soft blue with grey over it, and lilac highlights. The hardest part was the eyeliner, but I managed to draw a reasonably straight line on each eyelid and outline my eyes with a black pencil. It was unsettling to watch the familiar face in the mirror transform into that of a cute girl. Mom smiled encouragingly, while I sat in stunned silence. Next, she started using her curling iron on my hair. Bit by bit, she turned my unruly mop into a style that was not only feminine, but flattered my face. With that done, she wrapped a brow around me, fastening it in the front and drawing my chest up into the cups, which she padded with small foam shoulder pads from one of her dresses. Then came the waist cincher that turned my soft waist into a trim 26 inches. The slit was short and white with lace trim. The dress Mom chose from Ashley's closet was a dark green sheath dress that hit mid-thigh on me, perhaps higher since I'm taller than my sister. The V-neck and sleeveless design made me look slimmer, and there was no denying that I now had a feminine figure. Without warning, Mom used a pin to pierce one of my ears, then slipped a large gold hoop into each lobe. A thin gold necklace went around my neck, and she handed me the shoes. I stepped into the black heels and let her guide me to the mirror. My worst fear had come true. I looked just like a girl. Every trace of the face I knew was gone. "Ready to go?" Mom asked. "Mom, do I really have to do this? I mean, look at me." "Yes, I see. You look lovely. You should be pleased. But they'll think you're very pretty, that's all. But perhaps we should find a name for you when you're dressed this way. I doubt you want to use your own name. Any ideas?" I thought for a moment, then said, "Karen, since I didn't know any girls by that name. Mom simply nodded, took my hand, and led me out of the room. The click of my heels on the hardwood floor echoed like a countdown to my doom. I felt a mix of shame and secret pleasure at my appearance. Pleasure because I didn't look ridiculous, and shame because I looked so convincingly good. We entered the family room together, drawing immediate gasps from the girls, a stunned "oh no" from my father, and a grin from my mother. "Everyone, meet Karen," Mom announced. It was all I could do to stand there quietly and let them stare. Irene, the waitress, stood up and approached me, her eyes scanning me from head to toe and back again. Then she smiled. "Looking like that, I'll rake in more tips than ever. You look amazing. I can't wait for Emily to see you. She probably won't want you as a cheerleader." Every fiber of my being screamed at me to run and change clothes as fast as possible, but I knew my father would ensure I stood by my word. So there I stood. Ashley's grin faded slightly now that she'd seen me, while both Tiffany and Irene examined me closely. The girls wanted me to join them at some burger joint, but Mom said no. My time as a girl didn't officially start until Monday, and besides, she added, Karen needs a few things of her own. The girls understood, but I was clueless. My parents told the girls to leave, then Mom explained what she meant. "We don't share underwear, Karen. You and I are going shopping to get you some essentials, like your own panties, probably 2 bras, and if we can find it, a padded panty brief, so you won't need washcloths for hips. I'll get you a handbag and we can go." That was that. No discussion, no questions, nothing. I was going with her, period. Mom returned with a small black shoulder bag, handed it to me, and headed for the door, only pausing to ensure I was following. I didn't like it, but I complied. That first step outside was awful, and I quickly got into the car, seeing Mom laughing at me. "Stop fretting so much. You look absolutely delightful, and no one would suspect a thing unless you tell them or give it away. Walk with me, match my steps, keep your elbows in, and use your hands more. Stand tall and act like you belong, and you'll be just fine. This might go on for a while, Karen, so you might as well get comfortable. Who knows? You might even end up enjoying it." Mom was way off base, but I kept quiet. At the mall, it was all I could do to exit the car, and once inside, I started to tense up. Mom gently took my arm and started walking, leaving me no choice but to follow. She walked at a normal pace, and I had no trouble keeping up, but my stride was all wrong. We went into the lingerie section, where Mom picked up a couple of packages of panties and 2 bras, not asking if I liked them or not. With those essentials secured, I expected to leave, but no such luck. Mom steered us into the shoe department, explaining that I'd need comfortable shoes for work, plus pairs for school and cheerleading. The sales guy didn't bat an eye as I tried on shoes, although I'm pretty sure he tried to pick up my dress once. Next, Mom took me to a makeup shop where they redid my makeup, and she bought everything they used. As good as I looked with Mom's help, I looked even better now. There wasn't a hint of my beard left. I had a feeling Mom wasn't done yet, and I was right. She took me to a dress shop where I also bought 2 dresses and 2 skirts with matching blouses, and later, at a specialty lingerie shop called Freddy's, a padded panty brief, and a pair of breast forms. I was mortified when Mom pulled me into the changing room to try on those breast forms, but she insisted they were perfect, and I left wearing them. By the time we got home, I had lost most of my fear of being in public, but not all of it. Dad wasn't home, and I assumed I could change, which I could, but not into my jeans. Mom wanted me to try on both dresses and skirts. She unzipped me, and I went to my room, put on the first dress, and froze. I hadn't realized how low the V-neck was when we bought it, and the twin mounds of my new breasts were clearly visible, swelling against the bra. I zipped it up and, at Mom's insistence, returned to the family room. There sat Dad, my sister, Mom, and Irene. After a moment of mutual staring, I walked and posed for everyone, trying to ham it up a bit. Irene held up a plastic bag containing uniforms like hers, 4 of them, all in my size. "I cleared it with my boss, Karen. I told him you were filling in for me, but I didn't mention you're a guy. You look so good he wouldn't have believed me anyway. He gave me these for you to wear. Here's my schedule. You look hot, girl. See you tomorrow at school. I took the bag and watched her leave, that sinking feeling in my gut returning. Mom told me to stay dressed for the rest of the day, so I did, and that night, she laid out what I would wear to school the next day. A skirt and blouse with pantyhose, ankle socks, and flats. She instructed me to be up early so she'd help with my hair and makeup. She also tossed me a nightgown, a nylon one. That night, I tossed and turned, my dreams filled with taunts, but also with some of the guys hitting on me. Mom assisted me in getting ready, which went faster this time since I knew the drill. However, the skirt was shorter than I'd realized, and once again, I found myself showing a lot of leg. Mom handed me the same purse, now filled with my wallet, a lipstick, a small bottle of perfume, and some tissues. She reminded me not to forget it. I drove to school with a knot of apprehension in my stomach, but there was no turning back, especially after setting foot inside the school. From that point on, whatever would be would be. Surprisingly, no one stared at me as I walked in. I went to my first class, and no one so much as glanced my way until I sat down in my usual seat, which drew a few gasps. Just then, the teacher entered and took attendance. When she called my name, I expected to hear my male name, but she didn't hesitate before asking for Karen. Here, I replied, and she continued as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Clearly, someone liking my mother had informed her in advance. I received plenty of looks, but no one uttered a word. They wouldn't dare, not in class. Walking to my next class, however, was a different story. My best friend, Brian, gawked at me like I was from another planet. Holy cow, you look just like her. I mean, you're beautiful. What I mean is, you don't look like I thought you would, he stammered. Try seeing it from my perspective, Brian, I retorted. No thanks. Let me walk with you to your next class, he offered. For a moment, it seemed like he might take my hand, and he probably thought the same, but we both pulled away. That's how it went all day. The guys stared, wide-eyed, but the girls didn't giggle. The boys always gaped, but only Brian spoke to me. By lunchtime, I was used to it and sat alone at a table. Irene and my sister quickly joined me. This isn't going as planned, Karen. You just look too damn good, Irene admitted. Does that mean you want me to stop? I asked. No, but we never expected you to look this good. What I'm saying is, you're really pretty, and I'm glad you're doing this. Not many boys would, she clarified. I didn't know what to say to that. Besides Mom, no one had called me pretty except maybe Brian, who struggled to get the words out. Somehow, it was easier after that. I went home, changed into the uniform Irene had given me, and drove to the restaurant. The owner, Charlotte, wasn't expecting a boy in a dress, so she gave me a quick rundown, assigned me some tables, and I got to work. After a few hours, my legs were aching, and I was grateful Mom had made me buy comfortable shoes. I earned $40 in tips, which I tucked into my purse before heading home at 8. I changed, showered, and did my homework. That night, I slept soundly. The next 3 days followed the same pattern. Then, out of the blue, it happened. One of the guys, an acquaintance named Timothy, asked me out to the movies on Saturday. I was so stunned that I couldn't respond and hurried to my next class. Brian, who sat next to me, asked if Timothy had really asked me out. When I looked at him, he just smiled and shrugged. He thinks you're hot and asked me if he should ask you out. I told him you might say no, Brian explained. But why me? There are plenty of girls here, Brian. I'm not a girl, and everyone knows it. I protested. True, but have you seen yourself in the mirror lately? You look more like a girl than some of the actual girls do. You're even starting to act like one, with the hand gestures and all. I think you should go, just to tick off Irene and your sister. Especially Ashley, since she's had her eye on Timothy for ages. Brian had a point. It would be a dig at my sister. The more I thought about it, the more I agreed with Brian. After class, I found Timothy and told him I'd be happy to go with him. He said he'd pick me up at 7. Now, all I had to do was break the news to Mom. There was no way I was telling Dad. I'd leave that to Mom. Friday was chaotic at the restaurant, and I didn't get home until nearly midnight. The next morning, I put on a bra, fresh panties, a t-shirt, and my jeans before heading to breakfast. Mom was there alone. I was enjoying my coffee and a roll when she asked what I planned to wear that night. "What do you mean?" I asked. "For your date. What were you planning to wear?" she clarified. "A skirt and blouse." "Why? And how did you know about it?" I questioned. Ashley was quite upset when she told me, Karen. "Apparently, the boy who asked you out is the same one she's been wanting to date," Mom revealed. "I had nothing to do with that, Mom. I didn't even know about it until Timothy asked me out, and even then, I had to think about it before I said yes. Now I'm thinking maybe I should cancel," I contemplated. "You can certainly cancel, but if you do, you'll be spending a lot of time at home alone. 7 months is a long time, Karen. Face it, honey, you're very pretty, and boys are going to be drawn to you whether you like it or not. Some, like Timothy, will ask you out. Now, if you want to be with me and Dad all the time from now until the end of the year, that's fine. But I thought you and I could go to the salon and get our hair done today. You need a manicure, and a better cut will make it easier for you to manage. What do you say? Are you Karen? Or are you just a boy in a dress?" "I'm not a girl, Mom." "That's true, but that wasn't the question. Are you Karen?" I knew it sounded weak, but Mom was right. "Yes, I am." "All right then, go put on some makeup and we'll go." I had never been to a salon before, so I didn't know what to expect. Mom, however, was her usual efficient self, and before I knew it, I was in a chair getting my hair washed and styled. The stylist cut it shorter than I expected, but after a session under the dryer, another girl came over and did my nails, making them longer with rounded tips, then painting them a soft red with a metallic sheen. When the stylist finished, I had a curly page boy that perfectly framed my oval face, and those longer nails made my hands look more slender and feminine. I really liked how I looked with that haircut, and then suddenly, I felt like a girl. As we left the salon, Mom suggested that since we were out, we might as well take the opportunity to expand my wardrobe a bit more. My first purchase was a red and white corselet with matching panties. Then, I added 2 more dresses, a suit, and 2 more skirts with tops to my collection. I also picked up heels in taupe and navy. I found myself enjoying the fact that Mom and I were shopping together, and after a week in skirts, I was now more aware of the hem lengths. I still bought the shorter skirts and dresses, but now I understood what that meant. Around 3 o'clock, Mom and I headed home. I breezed past Dad without a word, went up to my room, and put my things away. I didn't hear Mom telling him about my hair and nails, or the argument that followed. I was ready to go within a few hours. I indulged in a bubble bath, which I discovered I quite enjoyed, followed by a shower and a close shave. I reapplied my makeup and slipped into a pleated tan skirt with a brown pullover top that fit snugly enough to accentuate my breasts. I accessorized with earrings, a watch, a thin beaded necklace, and my taupe heels. I applied red lipstick to match my nail polish and added a spritz of perfume, a first for me, but it felt appropriate. I walked into the family room as usual and immediately drew stares from Dad. "Your hair," he exclaimed. "Don't you like it?" "I think it makes me look a bit better, and they told me it would be easier to manage," I replied. "You had your nails done too. How long will it take to get those off?" he asked. "Dad, this is going to last 7 months. Even you agreed to that, so I got acrylic nails. They don't come off," I explained. "You look like a girl now, damn it," he muttered. "Isn't that the idea? You told me to keep my word, and I did. Then I found out this would last much longer than I thought, so if I have to dress this way, why can't I look nice? I don't want to spend the next 7 months at home. Is that what you want me to do?" I countered. Dad was cornered, and he knew it. I had done nothing but keep my word, just as he had instructed. The issue was that I ended up looking good, and I found I didn't mind wearing skirts at all. In fact, at the salon, seeing myself for the first time after the styling, I realized I wouldn't mind staying this way. I just wasn't going to say it aloud. I let the facts speak for themselves, which of course was why Dad was so angry. There was nothing he could do about it. When he found out I had a date, he actually growled but held his tongue when Mom told him I shouldn't have to stay home the whole time. I had a few hours before Timothy would arrive, so I sat on the couch to watch television. A little later, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Emily was standing there. "Hi. I thought I'd stop by so we could talk," she said. I grabbed her hand and led her out to the patio, shutting the door behind her. "Some of the girls on the squad were wondering if you'd be practicing with us," Emily explained. "I have to work for Irene after school every day for a month, Emily, so I don't see how I can. Plus, I still have 2 weeks left on my bet with her," I replied. "We get it, Karen. That's why we were thinking we'd let you off the hook for being a cheerleader, but you'd have to keep dressing this way, just as if you were one. That means it'll be for the same duration. Either way, you'll be wearing dresses." In my mind, I knew this arrangement would work out fine. Charlotte had asked me to stay on even after Irene returned, which meant I'd be making about $400 a week that I could keep. So, I agreed without giving it another thought. Emily is one of the best-looking girls in school, which is why she's the head cheerleader. Smart and beautiful, that sums up Emily perfectly. When Timothy told me he asked you out, I wasn't surprised. "Were you?" she asked. "Absolutely. Your brother never had trouble getting a date before, so I wondered if it might be some kind of setup. But I couldn't figure out what more could happen to me. He knows I'm not a girl, and that bothered me for a while, but rather than sitting home all the time, I decided to go for it and accepted. It's not a setup, Karen. He talks about how pretty you are, your great legs, and he says your smile is amazing. No, he's smitten. Can't you see that? But I'm not a girl. You can't be in. You must be mistaken, Emily." "Oh no, I'm not. I know my own brother, Karen, and believe me, he knows you're not a girl, but he's pushed that fact so far down that he can't even see it. All of us have seen you every day for over 2 weeks now, and whether you know it or not, you've started to act like a girl, walk like a girl, and believe me, you look like a girl in every way. Especially with that soft perm and those acrylic nails. And if you try to tell me you don't like being dressed as a girl, I'll call you a liar. You wouldn't have gotten those things done if you didn't like being seen as a girl. I hate it when someone sees right through you, and Emily had done just that. According to her, some, if not many, of the other kids had figured it out too. But so far, no one had said a word to me about it, not even the typical school bullies. But how had this happened so quickly? I mean, before all this, I was like every other guy in school. I was hoping to get into some girl's pants. I just never expected to be the one in them. Now, Emily was telling me it was obvious I liked being a girl. I looked at her, trying to find a way to deny what she'd said, but the words wouldn't come. She noticed, and when she smiled at me, I had to swallow hard and try not to smile back. That would only confirm what she already knew. This should be an interesting school year, Karen. Based on the changes we've seen so far, I'll bet that within a month, hardly any kids will even remember you were once a boy, including you. Just remember this about boys. They all have one thing on their minds when it comes to girls, and it isn't friendship. That specifically includes Timothy. But I'm not going to do anything, Emily. How could I? I mean, you know what I mean. There are plenty of things you can do for a guy without going that far, Karen. Don't be so naive. Not that either, Emily. No way. She dropped the subject, then asked if I wanted to join her and a few of the other girls for a get-together on Sunday at 2. I said I would try to be there, and she left, leaving me to wonder if it was true. Had I become so much like a girl that I had started to act like one? Would I become so much a girl that everyone would forget the real me? Would I be able to return to being male? Or would I simply remain a girl? I went to my room, stood in front of the mirror, and tried to find the answer. My oval face, now framed by the waves of my perm, the makeup that made me look so feminine, and my figure all combined to cast doubt in my mind. I didn't look like a boy in any way, unless I undressed. Dad still didn't like the fact that I looked this way, but he had stopped complaining about it. Meanwhile, Mom had taken to thinking of me as her daughter. Right now, my figure was all foam rubber with a bit of silicone. What, I wondered, if I could make it seem like it was all me? Would that make a difference? Emily and the squad had given me a break by not making me do those jumps and bait and twirling, but I still had to wear the clothes for the same amount of time, and 7 months is a very long time. Maybe she's right. By then, maybe nobody will remember that I am a boy. I looked in the mirror again, then decided that I might as well try to do my best. If they all think I'm a girl, well, I'll decide what to do then. In the meantime, I decided to check out the web and see what was available to help a boy like me look like a girl. What I found astounded me. There were several fiction sites with stories about boys just like me. I downloaded a few, then in another search, I found a site that seemed to carry everything a girl like me would need, from special panties to breast forms custom-made just for me. The prices didn't seem too outrageous, but I didn't have a credit card, so that meant I would have to use snail mail and a money order. I downloaded the instructions, folded them, and put them in my purse. I made a note to stop at the art store in the morning. Then I read the stories. Some were pure trash, but a few hit home. In more than one case, the main character, like me, had found himself stuck in the role of a female. Several interesting hints made me take notice, and I highlighted them for later use. Then I started to get ready for my very first date. Dad was livid when Timothy arrived, but he tried to hide it and was polite. Timothy led me out to his car, then drove us to the movies. I wanted to ask him what was going on, but I didn't. If what Emily had told me was true, he wouldn't be able to explain it anyway, so I let it drop. We saw the movie, then stopped at a burger place for drinks. He was polite all evening and didn't do anything more than hold my hand, so I wasn't ready when he took me home, and before I could get out of the car, pulled me close. I felt the gentle touch of his lips on mine. I broke away and ran into the house. Timothy had kissed me, and I had let him. I was afraid of what that meant. I went to bed with a taste of him on my lips, a shiver down my spine, and a feeling that it could have gone further if I hadn't run into the house. The next morning, Dad simply asked if I had a good time, while Mom inquired about my plans for the day, since it was my day off. I told them I was going to Emily's at 2, but had a few errands to run before that. After breakfast, I went to change. Mom insisted I shouldn't wear slacks, so I put on a skirt and blouse with my gym shoes and headed out to the art store. Finding the right shade to match my skin was a challenge, but with the help of a mirror, I managed to get it right and noted down the codes. I decided not to tell anyone about my plans until I saw how well the items looked on me. I arrived at Emily's about 15 minutes early, but she welcomed me in, and we went to her bedroom. About 10 minutes later, 2 other girls showed up. Ashley is a tall, dark-haired girl with a stunning smile and a very fit body. Sarah is average in looks and build, but her dad's wealth ensures she's always part of the best teams or clubs. I told Karen what we decided, and she agreed, which makes her a de facto member of the squad. I want her to join us for our special outings. Anyone disagree? Emily announced. Does that include the really special outings? Ashley asked. Of course, Ashley. Why shouldn't she join us? Emily replied. I don't care, I was just asking, Ashley clarified. She'll have to get a uniform, Emily, Sarah pointed out. Nope, Sarah, she doesn't. Karen doesn't practice or perform with us. We're just making her part of the squad, like an associate member, Emily explained. They all looked at me, but I had no idea what they were talking about. Emily filled me in. Sometimes we all get together, like for a pajama party or a girls' night out. Once, we even managed to get into that strip club downtown. Interested. If they were inviting me to join them, that meant I had been accepted as a girl. I nodded and they all hugged me. Then we headed to the mall for some retail therapy. By the time I got home, I had never felt more feminine. The way the girls treated me, like I was one of them, made me realize that I didn't mind being a girl at all. I admit that the thought of seeing a dozen semi-naked girls at a pajama party crossed my mind, but I knew in my heart that before I ever did that, I would have those items, and it wouldn't make any difference. I would be one of them, a girl. In my room, I filled out the form, and after using a measuring tape, wrote down my current measurements and my desired sizes. School felt like any other day, except I no longer felt like a freak, and the kids had stopped staring at me. My friend Brian, however, was keeping his distance, and I wasn't sure why. With his big mouth, he could have easily been the one to make the bet instead of me. The teachers all referred to me as Karen now, and I had been excused from gym classes for obvious reasons. The coach even joked that if he let me use the locker room, most of the guys wouldn't be able to do push-ups without injuring themselves. I had to laugh at that. The class they put me in instead was sewing, the only opening they had, and I was forced to take it for the credit. Mom found it amusing, while Dad thought it was ridiculous. But after 3 classes, I realized I could buy clothes that maybe fit well enough, needed to be shortened or taken in a bit, and I could do it myself. My time filling in for Irene ended on Friday night, and I wasn't scheduled to start working for myself until Monday. So after school, I withdrew the money I needed and sent in my order for the special items. According to the website, it would take about 10 days. That night, I tried on one of my own uniforms. With Mom's help, I shortened the hem and took it in at the waist. Dad watched me sewing for a bit, then stormed off. I was no longer his idea of a son, but there wasn't anything either of us could do about it, and that's what bothered him. Mom told me to ignore him. Then, after he had left the room, she sat down and asked me how I felt about dressing as a girl. What should I tell her? You like it, Karen. That much is obvious. Now the question is, how much? She asked. I decided to tell her exactly how much and asked her to wait while I got something. I went to my room and retrieved the full color pictures I had printed and the 3 stories with the highlighted portions, then returned to her sewing room. Without a word, I showed them to her, let her read the text, and simply waited. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, and widened again as she looked up at me. And this means, she asked. I ordered this, and this, Mom. They should be here sometime next week. But if the panty doesn't fit, I can send it back. And maybe you can do this for me, I said, pointing to the highlighted text. She read it and responded, I see. Well, all right. That answers the question of whether you like it. But this says that you can have some sort of sex with this panty. I don't want you to find out if it works, Karen, understand? Yes, ma'am. But if that's the case, why not do the other for me? I asked. No, I'll let you wear this panty, but no fooling around. And I mean it, she insisted. Neither Mom nor I mentioned the items to Dad. I went to school on Monday as usual, then headed to work. Irene was a bit surprised to see me and asked about it. I explained what Emily had said about my cheerleader status and that Charlotte had asked me to stay on. She also noticed how well my uniform fit. I simply told her I altered them myself for a better fit, and she dropped the subject. We chatted a bit, but it was clear her bet hadn't turned out as she expected. I had ended up looking good, doing her job well enough to secure my own. I could sew, and she couldn't, and Timothy had asked me out. Overall, she knew I had come out on top. On Thursday, I rushed home after school to see if the items had arrived. They had, so Mom and I went to my room to try them on. It took us nearly an hour to get everything in place, but it was worth it. I now had 2 very pert breasts that looked like they were naturally mine, and the panty, which had a built-in vagina and padding to give me proportional hips. From every angle, I was now unmistakably female, from head to toe. When I got dressed, all of my lingerie fit better, and for the first time, I felt the weight of breasts pulling on my chest. The bra gave me a modest but definite cleavage, and I felt strangely complete. Mom watched me as I dressed, noticing how well the bra fit now. With the low, well-padded cups, my breasts were almost perfectly rounded. She said I would need new bras and told me to get dressed. Then we went shopping. I bought 4 new bras. Only one had any padding, but with a normal bra, I now had an impressive bust line. My measurements were 36 to 25-36, with a B-cup bra. I loved it, while Mom just smiled. I also bought a short, semi-sheer nightgown with a matching robe. I had plans to give Dad a shock that night. After dinner, Mom gave me a wink, so I went to my room and changed into the nightgown. It was black, so I paired it with the black thong panties that came with it. Tonight was the night I would show Dad just how much I liked being a girl. Looking in the mirror, I could see the twin mounds of my breasts straining against the thin material, and I smiled to myself. I slipped into my padded slippers and left the room, walking right past Mom and into the family room, past Dad, who looked up and almost made it to the couch. "Karen," he exclaimed. I turned to face him directly, letting him see for himself how I looked. "What have you done to yourself? You, he stammered. "I look like a girl now, Dad. It'll be easier on me, so I might as well, don't you think?" I replied, enjoying the moment. Taunting him like that was risky, but he was so focused on my breasts that he wasn't thinking straight. "Fasten that robe and sit down. You may have to dress as a girl, but why do you have to have those? You're even starting to talk like a girl now." "I give up," he grumbled, leaving the room and heading to his office. Mom and I were left alone. I went to bed satisfied that I had made my point. School and work kept me busy, but Timothy asked me out again, and I accepted. This time, he parked on a quiet street, and when he kissed me, I didn't pull away. Things got heated, but nothing happened, and I knew that I would not be returning to my former male self anytime soon. My days as a girl blossomed as Emily and the squad kept their word, including me in many of their special outings, such as a pajama party. I knew what they were thinking, so I'd brought the black baby doll. When we all changed, I felt 7 pairs of eyes on me and turned to face them, naked. Without a word, I slipped on the baby doll, leaving them to wonder how I did it. With Charlotte on vacation, I was left in charge, allowing me to wear normal clothes, set schedules, and more. Irene and I had become great friends by then, and I ensured she got the shifts she wanted. Dad had finally accepted the obvious, but I had to help him understand one last time. The panty came with a small packet that simulated a menstrual period, so I used it without wearing a pad. Dad was shocked when he saw the blood, but I cleaned up and returned wearing a pad. He never mentioned it again after that. Graduation was just 2 months away, but my time from the bet would be over next week. I had no plans to change back, and I didn't think anyone would care. Timothy was taking me to the prom, of course, and I intended to see if the panty would work as advertised. From an awkward boy to a woman, that bet was the best thing that ever happened to me. Being a waitress had its perks too. I met the nicest people that way. The night of the prom arrived, and Timothy picked me up in a sleek limo. I wore a stunning red gown that hugged my curves perfectly, and Timothy looked dapper in his tux. The dance was magical, and Timothy couldn't take his eyes off me. As we slow danced under the dim lights, he pulled me close and whispered in my ear, "Karen, I've never met anyone like you. You're amazing." I blushed and smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "Timothy, there's something I need to tell you," I said softly. He looked into my eyes, concern etched on his face. "What is it, Karen?" I took a deep breath. "Timothy, I wasn't always a girl. I used to be a boy named Kyle. But this bet, this journey, it's changed me. I feel more like myself now than I ever did before." Timothy's eyes widened, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he held me tighter. "Karen, I don't care about your past. I care about who you are now. And I love who you are now." Tears welled up in my eyes. You love me." He nodded, a gentle smile on his lips. "I love you, Karen, and I want to be with you, no matter what." Just then, a commotion at the entrance caught our attention. A group of guys, led by Brian, stormed in, looking angry and determined. Timothy quickly positioned himself between me and them, his protective instincts kicking in. "What do you want, Brian?" Timothy demanded. Brian sneered. "We know your secret, Karen. Or should I say, Kyle? We're here to make sure everyone knows the truth." The room fell silent, all eyes on us. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, my head held high. Yes, it's true. I used to be a boy named Kyle. But now I'm Karen, and I'm proud of who I am. The room erupted in murmurs, but Timothy silenced them with a stern look. "Karen is an amazing person, and I love her. If anyone has a problem with that, they can leave right now. To my surprise, the murmurs turned into cheers of support. Brian and his group looked around, realization dawning on their faces that they were outnumbered. Defeated, they slunk away. Timothy turned to me, a wide smile on his face. "See, Karen? Everyone accepts you for who you are, just like I do." I smiled back, my heart swelling with joy. "I love you, Timothy, and I always will." As we kissed under the sparkling lights of the prom, I knew that my journey had led me to exactly where I was meant to be, in the arms of the man I loved, accepted and cherished for who I truly was. And in that moment, I couldn't have asked for a happier ending.